task of maintaining and rebuilding and revitalising the Republican struggle of resistance was taken on. Again, it was an onerous, a difficult and a dangerous one. When Kieran Nugent and other Republican prisoners refused to don prison uniforms in 1976, they did not realise at that time that their struggle within the jails would eventually become so pivotal to that task of rebuilding the Republican struggle. When small groups of their relatives and friends and supporters began to campaign on their behalf, they too did not realise how important their work on the outside would be to repopularising and revitalising the Republican struggle. That awareness and that realisation came with time, with hard work, with personal sacrifice and perseverance. That campaign in support of the prisoners on the outside started with just a few hundred people in 1976. It eventually grew over the next number of years to become a campaign that by 1981 encompassed and directly involved hundreds of thousands of people right across this island. And putting that prison struggle into its proper context, there is no better means of doing so than in the words of the prisoners themselves. In the course of their statement announcing the end of the hunger strike in October 1981, the prisoners said, "We feel that it is of paramount importance that the political revelations, lessons and consequences of the hunger strike are recognised and perpetuated in the minds, the hearts and the demeanour of the nationalist population of Ireland. One of the primary lessons to emerge from this second hunger strike is that the nationalist community is politically inconsequential and impotent in the context of the six-county state. Despite the electoral successes, despite the hundreds of thousands of hunger strikers' funerals, despite massive and unprecedented displays of community support and solidarity, the British government adhered rigidly to the precept that might is right and set about hammering home that nothing has changed since the fall of Stormont in 1972 or from the very inception of this state. That is, that nationalist Ireland must always be subjected to the British and Unionist veto." The prisoner's statement went on to say, "There were several reasons given by our comrades for going on hunger strike. One was because we had no choice and no other means of securing a principled resolution to the protest. Another, and of fundamental importance, was to advance the Irish people's right to liberty. We believe that the age-old struggle for Irish self-determination and freedom has been immeasurably advanced by this hunger strike, and therefore we claim a massive political victory. The hunger strikers, by their selflessness, have politicised a substantial section of the Irish nation and exposed the shallow, unprincipled nature of the Irish partitionist bloc. Our comrades have lit with their very lives an eternal beacon which will inspire this nation and people to rise and crush oppression forever. And this nation can be proud that it has produced such a quality of manhood. We pay a special tribute to the families of our dead comrades. You have suffered greatly and with immense dignity. Your loved ones, our comrades and friends, were and would be very proud of you for standing by them. No tribute is too great. Comrades, today those words still have the same resonance that they had 30 years ago. 30 years on from those momentous times, we must also remember that Britain's triple strategy of bolsterisation, normalisation and normalisation still continues to be implemented today. It is being implemented in a more refined and more subtle manner than it was in the 1970s and 1980s. But it remains the same strategy with the same purpose: to isolate and defeat the Republican struggle, to maintain and reinforce the partition of our country and our people, and to undermine our objective of achieving true freedom through the establishment of a 32-county socialist republic. To To defeat Britain's strategy, we must refocus our efforts on rebuilding, repopularising and revitalising the Republican base. We must re-educate others as to the true nature and the true purpose of our liberation struggle. But we must also be realistic. Republicanism is divided, and maintaining that division is central to the strategies of the enemies of radical Irish republicanism. Before concluding my remarks today, I wish to state that as a former Republican prisoner, I have witnessed and I have experienced the benefits which the prison struggle and the hunger strike eventually achieved for the men in Long Cash and for prisoners in other jails. It is therefore impossible for me to speak at this event, commemorating the hunger strike of 30 years ago and the prison struggle, without referring to the fact that today there are scores of Republican prisoners being held in McGabry prison and elsewhere. Just as in the 1970s and 1980s, these prisoners have been arrested using special laws. They have been held in special interrogation centres, charged under so-called special legislation and sentenced in special non-jury courts. They are not granted special category status. They are entitled to that status, and it should be granted to them immediately. And finally, comrades, there is no better way to bring my contribution today to a conclusion than to recall the words of Bobby Sands from his H-block cell on the 14th day of his hunger strike. I have always taken a lesson from something that was told to me by a sound man. That is that everyone, Republican or otherwise, has his own particular part to play. No part is too great or too small. No one is too old, too young to do something. There is much to be done that no select or small portion of people can do. Only the greater mass of the Irish nation will ensure the achievement of the Socialist Republic, and that can only be done by hard work and sacrifice.
Thanks very much, Breandán.